Hi, everybody. This is John Bell with DogmanCams.com. Okay, we are still dealing with technical issues with the cameras, which, of course, no one is new and surprised by that at this point. Absolutely. We are working on trying to get the camera up in Kentucky. We've had some issues with that. We're hoping to have it up very soon. With our camera in Louisiana, we were having an issue that something was coming up behind the camera, knocking it down, and then peeing on it, if you can believe that. Well, and this camera was very difficult to get to. I mean, it was like miles in the forest, and people didn't want to go that far by themselves in the woods, knowing these things are out there. Well, anyway, finally, something didn't just knock the camera down; it drug the camera off entirely. We don't have that camera anymore; it has been drug off. So, and when we look at the footage of what happened when it was leaving, we just saw something dragging it off on the ground into the woods. So it's crazy. But no one wants to go back out there. And we didn't catch anything really on that camera anyway. So we're looking at other spots in Louisiana to put that camera. And we have another possible camera location that we're going to be talking about tonight as well. Also, I want to give a shout out to a follower of the show who has gotten us some fantastic footage of the Tyler camera. Her name is Cheryl Edwards. All right, Cheryl Edwards, one of the fans of the show. I definitely want to give a shout out to her and thank her. She sent us a bunch of photographs of images caught on the Taylor, Mississippi camera, and they're nice images. It's nothing, anything super definitive or anything like that. But one of them really appears like there's a wolf in the image that you can make out, like almost its whole body standing behind a tree. Also, some people with the same image think that they see some kind of creature standing up behind the tree, like down on its knees or something. And then there's another real strange image in the daytime of something's face that looks like crazy. So that people think could possibly be a dog man, if so. So take a look at those. Those images should be posted up on DogmanCams.com. If they're not, they will be shortly. I'm not the tech guy. I'm the PR guy. So I'm the talker. I got to deal with the tech side, who does a great job. But anyway, so getting on to tonight's business, we have a very exciting show for you, one I've been looking forward to for a very long time. We have Steve, who's with us from Skinwalker Ranch. All right. I don't know if you all in the audience have heard much about Skinwalker Ranch, but it is one of my favorite spots on planet Earth. All right. There are several people that are in the fields of Bigfoot or Dogman or just cryptids in general. There's people that are in the fields of UFOs. There's people that are in the fields of the paranormal with ghosts and strange portals and all kinds of stuff like this. Skinwalker Ranch is the only place that I know of on Earth that it's all those things combined into one spot. And for people who think that this might not be something to take serious, the federal government takes this extremely serious. The military's been involved directly with this ranch. They've had handlers that have been involved with the ranch. They've had retired, I think, colonels and generals that have been involved with the ranch. They've had security, military, high-level special forces contractors that do security on the ranch, even to this day, even to right now. The ownership has changed on the ranch a few times. It was notoriously, you had the Gorman Ranch with Mr. Gorman originally when all the stuff started to take off and happen there that we know of. He sold the property to the military and then to Mr. Bigelow of Bigelow Aerospace, who made his money out of building hotels and casinos in Las Vegas. And he's taken over the place. And recently it's claimed that within a year or so or two that it was sold to somebody else, or at least a portion of it. And I've listened to Mr. Bigelow on several occasions talk about the ranch. And in one time in particular, Mr. Bigelow said yes. He called into Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. And George Norrie was asking him about the ranch. And Mr. Bigelow says, yes, there are entities out there that are intelligent and they make themselves known to us. They interact with us. He said they specifically interact with us. All right. Another interesting question posed to Mr. Bigelow was, when do you think we're going to have a disclosure about aliens coming here? Or when are we going to have an alien encounter? And Mr. Bigelow's recorded as saying, who says the aliens haven't always been here among us and were here even before us, and that they're not here right now? You know what I mean? I found that very interesting. But anyway, also at Skinwalker Ranch, getting back to that, swinging back, you're going to have Bigfoot activity there. You have Dogman activity there. You have ghost activity. You've got UFO activity. You've got just unexplainable, insane activity there. You've got opening vortexes there. And you even have dinosaurs there. I personally have a friend who did security as a contractor on Skinwalker Ranch, and he told me a story about coming across dinosaur tracks, and I'll get into that again with Steve, and I'll tell that story. But there's also been reports of velociraptors, multiple reports about velociraptors on the property. So anyway, I've taken enough up of the time. I want to hand it over to Steve, our guest from Skinwalker Ranch. So Steve, why don't you go ahead, introduce yourself, do a small bio on yourself, and tell us about the ranch.
All right. Can you hear me all right? Am I echoey?
I can hear you fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Steve, and I've been in the area probably about, 15 years or so. And you've always heard things about the area. You never really just well, first I heard about it. I was like, what the heck is this ranchy everybody's talking about? And you hear about kids that grow up in the area and, oh, we went and touched the door, or whatever they did to be kind of funny. And you just, what the heck is this ranch everybody's talking about? And then you finally, you hear about it and you learn about it. Wow, there might be something to this place. And if you're into the subject, you can, you go look it up. And then once you know enough, then there's a real interest. And then, okay, what's this guy know? What's this guy know? But no, I've been in the area for probably, like I'm saying, 15 years or so. And it's definitely a different area, and not just right by the ranch. I live pretty close to there too. And it's everywhere you go in this whole Uinta Basin, someone's got a story about something that they've heard or they've seen or where they've been, Right.
And
it's just, it's everywhere.
Okay, well, that's great. So in my description of the ranch, how does that sound compared to someone who lives there?
It sounds great and amazing, and just like Disneyland. Once you're there, it's like, okay, well, where's the mouse? It's kind of close to that. It's not a buildup of anything. It happens. It's just you always are looking for it, and it's not always there when you want to see it. It's always when you don't expect it, type of thing.
Right.
And I've done my fair share of exploring, and I want to see all this crazy stuff people are talking about. And sometimes
have you been able to
think you've seen something?
Hold on one second. I just want to give a quick shout out to my buddy Dark Waters, who joined us in the chat room, and also to Sean Grimm, another good buddy of mine, has his own show. Oh, now I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden as I say that. It's almost just like my Chasing the Truth. So check that out if you guys can. But just to give a shout out to those guys. But yeah, getting back to what it's like living there, hearing the same story. So when you just said that, have you been on the ranch yourself?
I've been up to the gate. I don't have any desire to want to go onto the ranch if I don't have to. One day I might. I know people that I can get on if I really wanted to. But like I'm saying though, you go driving around looking for stuff and you don't always see it and you get discouraged. You might go 10 times and not see anything.
Right.
And it's just that one time you don't think you're going to see it. You see something I don't know what that was, but that wasn't normal.
Exactly. Right. That sounds crazy.
Yeah.
So what are some of the stories and experiences you heard as a local that lives there that maybe the audience hasn't heard of or known about?
Well, it is a small town, and I've bumped into Mr. Gorman a couple times, and I know I'm good enough to call him as a friend. but just some of the things that he's told me versus what you hear, like some of it doesn't exactly line up because
Right.
no one was really there, and it's their word versus his, you know. And he's
Sure.
he's a really good person. I don't there's not much people that I know that are, I guess, as good of a friend. If you're looking for a good person that you can trust, then he's a good guy.
Right.
But
right.
no, some of the things that I've heard is, you know, like you know, portals opening up that I've asked him, I'm like, hey, what does a portal look like? And it's kind of like what you think it would, but not exactly. It's almost like if you were to look at like a thin piece of paper, and if you were to look at it sideways, you wouldn't see it. Almost like a two-dimensional sometimes. And if you get the right view at it, it's a sidestep maybe. 2 sidesteps, you might start to see a slim picture of what's actually there. And it could be a 50-foot hole in the sky, and looking through the hole, you might be looking at the mountains, and you're seeing this 50-foot hole in the sky, and you're seeing a completely different set of mountain ranges in that circle with a different color sunset or sky.
Okay.
And
that's fantastic.
yeah, and you know, stuff like that. And there's like not just the ranch, but there's like an area, that whole main street that goes in front of the ranch. There's tons of stories. It just it just matters who you talk to, really. I had a friend that was his oil field job, because this is an oil field area. He was going to go to a location out here, and he's like, "Oh man, I'm gonna be late. I gotta hurry." And so he gets in front of the ranch, and this is probably about 3:30, 4 in the morning, and he was going way faster than the speed limit to get there on time. And he noticed, like, what the heck is this guy following me with one light on? He's like, what's this guy doing? Is he crazy? And so the car gets closer to him, and he starts tapping his brake lights like, what the heck, man, quit following me. And next thing you know, the headlamp turns on and they get super bright. And he's like, what the heck is this guy doing? And next thing you know, it gets right up on him, and he's like, that's not a car. And he told me that he started to feel like, oh, I'm going to pass out. This isn't normal. And he remembers telling himself, I have to pull over. I have to put it in park because I'm going to pass out. So he pulls over, does that. He remembers looking at the clock as he goes down. He had time loss, about 3 or 4 minutes, he said. He said he woke up and like, man, that was weird. What the heck happened? And he said the next day he has a bad back. He said he hasn't had pain in his back ever since.
Okay, wow. One of the people in the chat room, actually it's my buddy Sean, he wants to know if there's any paranormal activity outside the ranch that you know of.
Like, how far are you talking?
Just there's been rumors about activity going on, not just in the ranch, but in around surrounding areas. So
it's everywhere. Like,
okay.
There's a lake out here called Lake Borum, and that's on your way out to Duchesne, which is like 30 minutes. There's a town east or west of here, and this is going west, and it's a native lake. And my brother, actually, his girlfriend at the time worked at a gas station, and he went to visit her at probably about midnight. And I was working late night that night, and he called me after this happened and was freaking out. He's like, all right, what happened? He said, this white trailblazer comes screaming into this gas station, like at least going 90, maybe faster. And he's like, what the heck's going on? And this couple comes out, and they're just freaking out. So the story was that he was right there when they were telling the officers what happened, which would be the Bureau for the Natives, because they have their own police.
Right.
And their story that they told crying, and he's hysterical. And he said they were camping at that lake, and he went to go get firewood, and he looked in the bushes, and he saw a green set of little glowing eyes. And he's like, what the heck is that? You know? And he turned to tell his girlfriend what was going on, and he saw an orb floating out there above the water too. And I want to say it was a blue one. And he said he saw another set of glowing eyes in the little bush where he was going to get his firewood, and they were red. And next thing you know, he was telling the police that these little people were chasing him and his girlfriend. And they got in their car, and they were trying to get out of there as fast as they could. And I was like, are you kidding me? When my brother told me that, and he's like, no, I'm not.
Right.
And he said there was little tiny handprints all over the car with 4 fingers. There were little people, I guess. And there was pry marks on the car where something was trying to break in. And like he said, it looked like a little, probably like a 5-year-old's little hand.
Wow.
With 4 fingers. The 2 middle fingers, I guess your ring finger and the no finger were the long ones. And the pinky and the pointer finger were probably at like the knuckle, just little weird fingers.
That's crazy. So
somebody
somebody in the chat brought up a story about 2 of the security guards running up on 2 dog men at a gate that they claimed were wearing trench coats and smoking cigars. Have you heard anything crazy like that?
I haven't heard that one. I had a buddy, he was coming up to the front gate one time, and him and his girlfriend and his buddy and his girl are like, let's go check out the ranch. There's nothing to do. And there's a lot of people that go out here just to like see if they see something.
Oh, and yeah.
Pulling up to the ranch, he got a new truck, and he's like, oh, there's nothing here. Let's get the hell out of here. And he's trying to like provoke something by talking the way he was. And he said, before he turned around though, he said, out of nowhere comes these dogs like hauling out of that area. Like they came through the barricades. And I don't even remember if he said the gate was closed. I think he said it was closed, but he sees these dogs because people always say, oh yeah, that guy that runs the ranch, he's got dogs and he'll stick them on you.
Right.
And that was before I know of the ranch owners now. I don't know of anything about them so much, but so he sees these dogs running at him with red eyes. They weren't like dogmen or nothing, but they were like extremely mean dogs. Like if you get out, they're gonna rip your leg off. He's like, what the heck is this? They ran straight through the truck. Like through the truck. They were like apparitions, yeah.
Wow. Almost like the hellhounds.
Kind of. That's immediately what I thought of.
Yeah, well, for people who might not have heard much, I mean, our listeners probably are up on this knowledge, but for anyone who hasn't heard of Skinwalker Ranch, why don't you tell people a brief synopsis of Mr. Gorman and his first experience out there when they had the giant wolf that came up to his truck when he pulled up on his property one day, shortly after he had just bought it, right?
Yeah. Well, I asked him about that because I kind of poke like, hey, I kind of am into this stuff. He always tells me, don't go looking for it because once you see it, nothing's ever the same, and your life isn't always married depending on what you see. And I said, what about that story in that book? He's like, what story? And I'm like, oh, that one, He's like, yeah. I said, what do you think it was? He's like, a big wolf. And he's like, I was like, it didn't die when you shot it? He's like, nope. And the way he was describing it to me was almost like a sarcastic, like I can't explain it how he said it. It was just like the thing didn't die when I shot it, and it's a huge freaking wolf. You're like, you standing up, it's like at your chest, right? The back of it, And like I was thinking, well, why would you pet a dog that's that big in the first place? Because I even go up to like a regular sized lab and I'm scared to pet it.
Yeah, the story goes that he drives up to the ranch one day with his son.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden this gigantic wolf comes running down and approaching them, and it wasn't being aggressive at all. So they didn't take it in an aggressive manner. And it approached his truck that he was standing by with his son, and it was being all friendly. So yeah, he was
it was the whole family was out there.
Yeah.
And so his dad was even on edge, like, wow, that's a big dog. That's a big wolf, Like this is someone's pet wolf. Wow, that's huge.
So it was acting friendly, and he did say he was even petting it, right?
Yeah.
And so
and then the calf was over there.
Yeah, but before
by the
that,
gate and
the wolf was 5 feet, just about 5 feet tall. Wasn't it that big?
Yeah, and that's what people describe Dogman as, and I was like,
right.
Other than a dire wolf, whatever they call it, like
a dire wolf, for people that don't know, is a prehistoric wolf in North America that's supposed to be completely extinct now, but it would be a canine wolf that'd be near the size of a bear. Yeah, and that's where people
huge wolf,
right?
Almost like what you'd see in like that Twilight movie when you're like, oh, let's see the werewolves. Oh, it's just another bigger wolf, not a werewolf. Right. That size of a wolf when they're big.
So as you were just saying, yeah, they're being friendly with this thing, although they're like, this is super odd that this thing is so massive. And then it starts going over to his kennel where he has a calf, right?
It just casually just strolls over there, and next thing you know, just grabs it and pulls it under the gate.
Yeah, grabs one of his calf by the leg and starts trying to pull it through the gate like it's going to eat it, right?
Yep. And they get frantic and go get the gun because they're very into like sportsman shooting, and he's very good. I've seen him shoot. He's a very good shot.
And at first he used a pistol, right?
I want to say it was a 357.
Okay.
And then that didn't work, so he said grab the rifle and
So he grabbed it was a 30-06.
Yeah. And
which that's no small round.
No.
I mean, a 30-06 will bring down a grizzly bear.
With the right round, you can take anything down pretty much. Placement.
That's what they say. With the 30-06, with the right placement, you can take just about anything down. And for people who don't believe that, because people have challenged that before, you look at the Russians that live in Siberia. They mainly hunt with 30-06 rounds, and they bring down gigantic animals.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Including grizzlies, right? So then once this thing was acting aggressively to his calf, he starts trying to shoot it with the pistol, has no effect. And a 357 Magnum, that's not a small round. Then he goes and
it wasn't a little short barrel. It was the 6-inch that has the most velocity you're going to get, you know?
Exactly, right. Which, yeah, from a 357, you're going to get the most velocity from something that's at least 6 inches, right? And then which is actually is considered a good round for the wilderness and for animal protection. But of course, against a grizzly, I'd want something much bigger. But still, there's plenty of people, even in Alaska, that go hunting with 357s around grizzlies. But anyway, back to the story. So he shoots this thing several times. And what was its reaction when he shot it?
Almost like an amazement that it didn't do anything.
This thing didn't even seem like it was wounded. Although didn't he say he could see like hair and flesh flying off?
Yeah, when he shot it like once or twice, I think it was. He said he knows he shot chunks off of it. He's like, oh, I did something.
Right.
No effect, like almost like it looked back at him, just casually looking at him like, I acknowledge you're doing that. Like, okay, and just keeps walking.
Steve, approximately how close do you live to the ranch?
I'd say 3 miles or so.
3 miles, yeah. I mean, you could probably step on your porch and pee on it.
Yeah.
But so he shoots this wolf, and the wolf runs off up a hill, and he continues to shoot it. Didn't he try and track it for a short distance with his son?
I don't remember it being a hill.
Okay.
I remember he said it just was walking off, and he said eventually it kind of just faded off. And
right. Well,
he said when he went back to look at the chunk of meat it flew off of it, he said it looked just like rotten, decaying meat, like it's been dead forever. Like, what the heck is that?
That's crazy. That sounds like Skinwalker stuff right there.
It's odd, man.
As opposed to actual Dogman, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it just had that dead animal smell. Like, well, what would have a dead animal smell other than something possibly demonic in some way? Like you summon something to get with your powers. I don't know.
But the thing that's so weird is how friendly it was acting towards Mr. Gorman and his family until it saw the prey and then went after the prey, you know?
Yeah.
And it did it in a predatory fashion, you know?
Yeah, it's weird. It's just like everything else that happened there, that you hear about. It's almost like it's taunting you in a way, like it's friendly, right, but it's not, or I don't know. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah, that's a super strange experience. But that was kind of what kicked off everything at the ranch for Mr. Gorman. Is that right?
As far as like that, was very odd, and then just like I don't remember exactly everything in the book, but the hunt for Skinwalker Ranch, that was a pretty close of what happened, but it's not exactly 100%, you know? Okay.
And again, what he just mentioned is a book called The Hunt for Skinwalker Ranch. All right. The Hunt for Skinwalker Ranch. That is basically one of the most definitive books out there as being authoritative, I would assume, on the ranch. Although Steve's telling us there are some things in there that aren't, fully true.
They're close, but they're not, it's not perfect.
That was George Knapp, also with Coast to Coast AM, that co-authored that book. and it was real helpful and instrumental in getting Skinwalker out there for the public to hear and know about. Well, after Mr. Gorman had that encounter, what were some of the other strange encounters he started to experience?
I don't know in what succession, because I was just happy he would tell me anything if he did. Like, oh, that's cool. I heard it from him, you know.
Right.
But like I could tell you some things. Like there was a surveyor that was doing something on the property, and there was this spider web that came out of nowhere. Like all of a sudden, like, wow, this is a really huge web. We're talking like 50, 70 yards of like web. Like what made that? And
right.
They get to look in, and it's like the strongest spider web you've ever seen or could imagine. Like, this is not from here. What the heck is this? And he said they got to look in, super teeny tiny spider, like tiny, like pinky nail tiny, made that huge web, however long it's been there or came out of somewhere, just there. He said that it was crazy how small it was and how big and strong that web was.
That's crazy. Now, I've seen, sometimes when spiders will make a web, especially little ones, they'll spin a long web and swing out to a location and stretch it out. Yeah. So as far as it popping up out of nowhere, it's possible something like that. But I don't see how something that size could have produced something that big.
No, and there was another one that was just kind of the same. He said they heard this, like almost like he called it, like it's a gobble chirping bird sound. Like, what the heck is making this sound? And they get to looking around, they find this teeny tiny bird, again, like the size of your thumbnail, and It's like the loudest bird you've ever heard in your life, almost deafening.
That's insane.
Which would clearly, come from another dimension to make something like that happen.
It sounds like. Same with the spider. Yeah. And one thing about spider webs, for people that don't know, our government's tested spider webs, and it's literally the strongest thing on earth, just about substance-wise. Because if you look at it under a super microscope, all the atoms are perfectly aligned in sync with each other. There's no gaps. There's no space like there is in almost everything else. Therefore, spider webs are extremely strong, so much so that the military has even made for special forces body armor out of spider webs. Believe it or not, it's crazy. But yeah, that's the craziest thing about this ranch. You can't just pinhole it to one subject. It literally encompasses everything paranormal that anyone's ever heard of, but then including cryptids and UFOs. But then on top of that, there's just so much bizarre stuff that no one's ever heard of, or it's just out of left field. That's just crazy. Like for example, you have people out there that say that they can hear people speaking and communication above them, but they can't see them, right?
Yeah, and there's silent helicopters blacked out. You can't hear a rotor swoosh or nothing.
Now that doesn't surprise me at all, because as far as military involvement, I would expect all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
you never know. Like, I don't know. It's crazy. Like talking about the area. It's not just the ranch. Like the times I've been there, we'll go there first. I would drive it by, thinking, okay, 1 a.m, if I could stay at that lake, 'cause I work all day.
Right.
Let's try to get something I can see, and hope you got your phone in your hand without crashing, Right. And then I got a dash cam, and I still didn't see nothing. But the times I did, I drove the back way, because it's hard to get a good vantage point without looking like a creep just sitting there staring towards the ranch. You're like, I feel weird just doing that, even though that's what you got to do. But I was driving around, and I was with my wife, and I had to kind of convince her to go with me. And I was driving behind the one way, and I didn't see a thing. It was pitch black that night, almost like there's not enough light for your headlights. And I was going probably 20 miles an hour, 15.
Right.
Turned around didn't see anything. Turned around and backtracked maybe 10 seconds, going the same speed. Out of nowhere is like the biggest, blackest bull I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, I know I did not see that. There's no hole in the fence, because I would have seen the eye shine.
Right.
And it was almost like, whoa, did you see that? Yeah, I saw it. Like, our hearts jumped because it was right there.
That's crazy.
Huge. Like I've never seen a black Angus bull that big before.
Right. And it just appeared.
I know I would have seen it, because I don't think it was up at 2 a.m. running around,
Right.
So that came out of nowhere. And I was going to tell you another one too.
Okay.
So another time, me and my other friend were like, let's go do something. Let's go check out the ranch. We go driving. We didn't see anything all night. And again, it's the back way. And there's a really creepy section in the back way that has these overgrown trees, and it's like spooky. You're like, okay, you get kind of like the chills just thinking about what could be here because it's a creepy movie type of vibe.
Right.
And we went around, didn't see anything past these houses, and next thing you know, there's this girl standing like the house is probably, I'm guessing, 60 yards, 70 yards from the fence. It's a big country lawn type setup, and there's some creepy trees in there too. But she's just standing there in the corner, facing the way we're driving towards her, almost like the Grudge type of look. And she's wearing this creepy kind of gown like that, but not as dirty. And she's just standing there staring at her feet. I'm like, is she sleepwalking? He's like, I don't know, man. Flip back around and see if she's still there. We'll ask what she's doing. And nothing. She was gone.
That's crazy. Yeah, I tell you, it's crazy all the stuff that goes on there. We can't even get it all in one show, which is a shame. But like, tell me about you told me a story before about one of the workers there not believing in anything, so he started challenging stuff and went outside and saw the big owl.
Oh yeah, this was about the time that book before the book came out, but like this Canadian scientist came out and he thinks everything's all BS and there's nothing here. You guys are all full of it. And so he tells Terry, he's like, I'm here to prove you wrong, more or less. And he's like, have at it. I do not recommend you do that. And so he gets him a chair and he goes out in the pasture and just sits there. It's pitch black out that night too. And cocky Canadian scientist that he was, he's out there, kind of just taunting things. And he's like, I wouldn't do that if I was you.
Right.
And out of nowhere, there's a thump, and Terry turns. Well, it was a thump, and then I think he heard. Oh, Terry turned his light on, and he sees this owl, and this owl is sitting on the ground in front of this guy, but the owl is like 5 feet tall, like a huge owl just sitting there. And in Native American culture around here, owls are like a sign of death. And they do not mess around with them. So, and even Terry's like, I've never seen an owl this big. This is not good. And that guy's like, what? It's just an owl, And Terry, I think he turned his light off at the time again. Okay, well, it's just a dumb owl, That guy said that to him, and you heard like the loudest screech you would have ever heard. And that guy, the owl, I guess he turned his light on back again or something, and the owl looked right at Terry. And Terry said, don't look at me. He's the one talking to you. Do not look at me.
Right.
And that guy's just thinking it's a big dumb owl. What? He's like, have you ever seen an owl that's 5 feet in your life, Mr. Scientist?
5-foot owl. That would scare the crap out of me. Okay, so one of the listeners is asking, how much activity, or is there any activity that goes on inside the house on the ranch?
I don't hear too much, but the first time I ever went out there was with my brother, and we're like, is this even the right spot? Is that we don't know which house it is, and you're looking from the pasture back road, and my brother got a new camera at the time, and not knowing how to use it, so we noticed a bunch of like lights, almost like security guard lights, and then patrol car lights shining in the bushes for about like 10 minutes or so. And my brother's like, hey, let's get a better look. I got this nice camera. And he points the camera over there. He's looking, and he accidentally takes a picture with the flash on.
Huh.
Yeah. And all the lights turn on us. And we're like, oh, crap, we get the heck out of here. But right before that, my brother got a better look, and we saw like the brightest flash, perfect blue light, almost like what you think, almost like a charger or a LED blue, like the prettiest blue you ever seen, flash out of the house. And it irradiated out of the house at least 20, 30 feet, I would say. I'm like, did you guys just see that flash? That was pretty freaking crazy. He's like, I saw it. And then he took a flash, and all those lights came straight to us, like almost like something was happening that night. And we took a picture, and I think they were wanting to know if we got anything on camera, so we just got the heck out of there.
Sounds like a good idea. What about Men in Black? Any stories about Men in Black on the property?
Not so much men in black, but people in suits. I'm almost positive the way that fiber optics got laid out here is more technology for the ranch, and more fiber optics are the best way to go that we know of.
Yes, that's true.
So like there was a time too, like they wanted, when they want something done, they want it now, and there was construction workers working 24/7 to get this done, like, and to get it laid down for whatever reason they want it so quick. And I know for a fact there was like a worker that complained, like, "Oh man, we've been out here so long, we just want to go home. Like, can we just go home?" Just complaining, like, all right. And then one of the guys in the suits pulls a stack of hundreds out, and he just says, "Hold your hand out, and then tell me when to stop." And then he just starts putting them in his hand, and he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, let's stop. That's enough. Stop." Like, okay, we'll get back to work.
That's crazy. Yeah. The fiber optic is so advanced. They said we'll probably never have anything to truly replace it. Which is it's a shame right now that the U.S. is going with all this 5G, and now there's talking about even 6G with their network systems. Israel, that created 5G, invented it, said it was too dangerous to use in their country. They said it's a weapon, and they only use fiber optics, which would be definitely the smarter thing to do, health-wise. But yeah, getting back to the story, so that's wild. Someone wants to know if there's any Indian burial mounds around the ranch.
Other than the cemetery, I don't know. I know there's a part on the property that had like what do you call it? Buffalo soldiers for sure had like made like a carving or something, and there's artifacts that were found, like they came through that area.
Buffalo soldiers, you mean like the Civil War black troops?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Like this
So
this whole area this whole area is rich with like a ton of stuff from the Spaniards all the way to like that far.
Right. And for people that might not be familiar in the audience, Buffalo soldiers were soldiers that fought, I believe it was for the South, right, in the Civil War, that were black. Or I don't. Was it North or South? I don't. It was a regiment.
I want to say it was North.
Okay, it was. Yeah, that could probably be. It was a regiment of specifically black soldiers that fought at the time, which was more unheard of around that time. Almost like the Tuskegee Airmen. I'm brutalizing that name, which I feel very honored. I met in person in Denver, Colorado, the last surviving member of the Tuskegee Airmen. And I feel really honored in my life to have met him and spent some time talking to him about his service. So that was amazing. He's no longer around, unfortunately. But anyway, yeah, getting back to the story. So the Buffalo soldiers, that's really interesting. Just the whole the history. Someone wanted to ask about any stories about black-eyed children on the ranch.
I haven't heard anything about that, but I know shadow people have been seen there, like on the outskirts. Terry, he told me one time there was a family that was going to church, and broad daylight, they see the blackest of shadow you can possibly think. And it's crazy though, when you talk about the ranch, a lot of stuff is like the most exaggerated bright or light that you can think of. I just thought about that. Like it's always extreme or not. There's no in between, It's either too big, too small, too light, too bright, you can't see it. And he said that these two shadow figures ran up on this rock, and the family was going to church, and I guess that really messed that family up, that they seen those things. Like, how do you explain the two shadow figures that are blacker than black running and standing on a rock? That freaked me out.
Well, let me ask you this: what about what about the stories of the dinosaurs?
That one was pretty close in the book. Terry was saying that they were out late at night looking at the property, and I can't remember if they saw orbs to go to the tree, but they were at that tree and they saw eyes, and he said the eyes are probably like 15 feet high or so. And he's like, "Wow, that's odd. What would have eyes that big, that high up in a tree?" And so he sees another set of eyes, and then he sees this humongous black, like hairy arm sticking through like the deadfall huge trees that are there. Like he sees a huge arm like reaching through, which I would think like a Bigfoot arm, how big you could describe it. And he ran back to his truck and they're all freaking out and like, the hell is it? And like yellow eyes the size of freaking softballs. And he grabs his gun and they're frantic as heck. Luckily they could get the gun, and he shot one set of eyes. He heard a thump, which he knows he got it. And I can't remember if he shot the other set of eyes, but he said the next day they went back and where they were looking around like, what the heck was that? Because they're like, I'm not going back there because it's nighttime, and that was enough. And the scientists are always trying to get more info. Let's go check it out. Like, is it worth your life? Let's go tomorrow. So they found like a perfect imprint that was analyzed, and they said, where did you get this? This is the perfect Utah raptor footprint
of a raptor. And wasn't that, you said before, that was sent to a lab, right?
Yep.
And so they verified that was actually the print of an actual raptor.
Verified. Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy. The story from my buddy was that he was hired as a security guard there, as a contractor, and they're out doing patrol at one point, and he said he'd come across something that looked like a turkey track on the ground, except it was about 19 inches long. And he was like, what the hell is this? And the other guy with him that had been there longer, the other security guy, said, well, I guess the T-Rex is back. And he walks off. And my buddy's like, whoa, hold on, wait a second right there. You don't just drop a bomb like, I guess the T-Rex is back, like it's casual conversation, and just walk off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, what the hell do you mean? I guess the T-Rex is back. You know what I'm saying? And he started to check his 6 and make sure his gun's loaded, right?
Yep. And, I was actually talking to a native guy that came in my work like a couple weeks ago, and I try to pick people's brains if they'll let me. And I said, do you see anything weird by the ranch? He's Ute, and that's the native tribe around here. And he's like, yeah, one time, maybe a couple times he told me the one story. And he said, I was leaving a party, and he had a huge lifted Chevy with probably like 38-inch tires, which that's high. That's like it's going to be at least 6 feet to the window, maybe right. 7. And he said he was going down that creepy back road right in front of the ranch. And he said he wasn't going crazy fast, but he said up ahead, he saw a dark figure that was blacker than black. And he's like, oh, that's not good. And he knows from being raised that you don't look at it. And so he didn't look at it, and he's driving, and he decided just to get the heck out of there and go fast. And he said the thing was running right next to his truck, and he said it had red eyes. And he said the crazy thing though, like it was so black that you could definitely see it in nighttime through his window.
Right.
And he's trying not to look at it, and he's like, yeah, it was keeping up with me, running right in my window.
Right. That's crazy. I'll tell you. Now, somebody said that there were 2 large poles in the front and back of the house with huge chains on them for like large dogs or something. You know anything about that?
Maybe not those, but the inside. Yeah, I know for sure that the house came with locks and chains and everything you could think of. Like, why do you need all these dogs in the house? Or
right?
Why are there so many locks to keep stuff out instead of in?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that sounded crazy.
You can't hide from that stuff. There was a scientist that tried to trap an orb, and let's build this extravagant steel metal box that's going to try to contain something you don't even know what the heck it is. And they said they got it in there. Next thing you know, right out the made a big old hole about the size of a basketball, shot out the side of that steel container, shot the side of the wall, gone.
Yeah, that's crazy. There are a lot of rumors or speculations that there might be an underground military base right there in that location. What do you think or have heard about that?
If it is, it's so secret, I don't even know about it, and I live right here.
Because there's a lot of rumblings. People say they hear in the ground. They say they hear heavy equipment.
There's sometimes in the morning, like when I'm going to work, most people go to work at sun up and leave at sundown around here. And starting my vehicle, I go outside. I'm like, what is that rumbling sound? There's certain
Right.
oil field sounds, and there's some that are like, I've never heard that before, and it is extremely loud.
Right. Yeah, that's wild, and that leaves reason to believe that maybe there might be something down there, and that's also because that Mr. Bigelow, when he sold the ranch, said that there was a stipulation in the contract that there could be, and Mr. Gorman too, I believe, that there could be no digging done on the ranch. Is that right?
I didn't hear anything about that, but I imagine that's probably true. I know for sure there was a drilling outfit that was going to drill on the property, and they're like, "Nope, we got a lease. We're going to do it." And
And they were shut down.
they were saying, "Nope, you're not going to drill here." And he said, "Yes, we are. We're drilling here." And nope, some people shut him down and said, "You are not drilling here. We are pretty much like a threat. Like you're not going to drill here."
Right.
And they never did.
Right. Like it was a personal threat.
Yeah, and then the front road was a private road, and then it became county for some weird reason.
One of the subscribers said that was the original owners that told that to Mr. Gorman when he bought the ranch. But
yeah, I don't remember hearing that. It could be.
As far as another speculation, if there was, say, an underground base there, I've heard of several stories about underground bases where supposedly they're creating these all kinds of chimeras and doing these just whacked out experiences, but then they actually have technology where they can open up portals and release these things on the surface to see what they do.
I mean, that anything's in the possibility range, I guess. Like it could be endless. No one knows unless I guess you own it. Maybe you got whatever paperwork might have been passed down to you.
Right.
It could be anything.
Yeah.
And as far as I got told it's a combination of Native American,
yep,
portals, dimensions. Like it's all intertwined somehow.
Right. And is it true too that most of the Native Americans won't step foot on the property? Is that right?
Oh man, like they can, but they're very superstitious. I mean, owls. If you see an owl, that's not good. That's like a no bird. Like, don't even look at it. And just like in that movie, that UFO movie where they get abducted in Nome, Alaska.
Oh yeah, the fourth kind.
Yeah, same thing with the owls. Like that is a no.
Interesting.
Oh, what's another one? Blanked out for a second. What was that question?
It was about the Indians being able to approach the ranch or not.
Superstition. Yeah, sorry. Well, there's this one guy that used to come visit him, and it's almost like, why do you even come to visit if you're like that? And he would come inside, but he'd leave his foot hanging out the door. Like, if I'm not fully inside, I'm okay for some reason. Like his foot would be right there, and he'd say, "Hey, you sure you don't want to come in? It's nice in here." No, I'm okay.
Right. Also, what about is there any one person asked, are there any cattle mutilations around the area?
I haven't seen any. I know there's something that no one talks about in the books or anything. He told me every time there's a cattle mutilation that they always face north and south.
Always face north and south.
How weird is that?
That's crazy wild. What are some other characteristics of Mr. Gorman? He said he's a good stand-up kind of guy.
Oh yeah,
and very honest guy. But I've heard too that he's an interesting character because he can be hot-willed and short-tempered and fire off.
It just depends. Like it's whatever comes across his way. It's just like as far as people go, like he's very smart, amazing memory.
Right.
Very humble. Like he knows he's a pretty. I can't explain it. There's not the best you could describe. He's a great guy. That's all you can say. But like as far as he's got no tolerance for stupid people. Like
right.
And he's somehow stuff is just drawn to him. He told me one time there's a guy that had this truck, and this truck would not stay running for whatever reason it was. Dumping money into it, and he's like, he caught spooks. He's like, "Come on, you stupid spooks! Like, quit messing with this guy." That truck ran forever and never needed another drop of gas. from him saying that.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. That's wild. Earlier, you mentioned men in black suits. Tell me something about that.
And in black suits. I've never seen any. I'm always asking people because those guys are interesting for some reason to me. But I've never
Right.
seen any. I'm always looking though.
You've seen the contractors though in security.
Um, I look at the ranch. I'm always at nighttime, so it's hard. But I always look for people out there. I don't see anybody. Sometimes you'll see someone sitting by the gate
Okay.
in a truck. But I haven't been out there in such a long time because I'm just so busy with work and stuff. But
Do you know any friends that have gotten in trouble trying to sneak on the ranch to do investigations or see anything?
and that same friend that had blacked out from that thing, the orbs following him.
Right.
He used to go there all the time and be messing with the front gate. He'd tell me he'd urinate on the concrete barriers. He'd get to come along and pull them together. Like, you're going to attract the wrong kind of attention, man. He's like, screw that stuff. There's nothing out here. He's always trying to provoke it. And I went with him one time, and it was like, this is going to go great. And the whole time we're pulling up to the gate, I got these goosebumps. I'm like, man, this is the place, like there's the hill right there that, there was an animal, a cow drug up there by something that's strong enough to drag a cow up a steep embankment that you can't even walk or run that fast.
Right.
And I'm like, I got goosebumps knowing that was right there. And there was another story, since this is a Dogman thing, that I don't know if anybody's ever heard of this one.
Okay.
There was a babysitter that was babysitting like right next door almost. And it was probably 2 or so in the morning, and the horses are freaking out, and something is out there just like destroying these horses, like mutilating them. And the sheriff was called, and he had never seen anything like what he'd seen. And I didn't get for sure of what he saw, but all I could think of was Dogman, because there was some creature out there just destroying these cattle, or not cattle, the horses, like mutilating them. And I guess that sheriff had quit his job after what he'd seen.
Wow, that's crazy. What about someone asked about, have you seen any UFO activity, or people talk about it in the town there about seeing lights in the sky or things coming from the property?
I mean, the town isn't like what you'd think. You'd think that thing, like, that's here. If you know about it, people are just like talking about it. Like, no, it's kind of like you're lucky to hear. Did you say UFO? What do you know about it? But I've seen, like, at the back of my porch, I always look that way if I let the dogs out at night, and I look, and at one time I seen a shooting star shoot up and not down. I was like,
Like
I
from the
saw
ground,
that.
from the ground
Yeah.
shooting up to the sky.
Yep, from the
That's
ranch.
crazy.
Yeah, and I had another. Actually, there's a lot of crazy stuff just beside the ranch. It's close to it, but
Right.
I
Like
had
the
a
bridge.
buddy.
There's a
Yeah,
bridge you're talking
there's
about.
a bridge south of it that's creepy as hell. There's people that, oil filled. They sit by the bridge whether they know there's stuff there or not. You're filling out your reports or just sitting there milking time, and I had a buddy say that something rammed his truck, and like totally like enough to where something dented the side of it while he was filling out his paperwork. Scared the
Right.
crap out of him, never went back. And I had another friend that was driving the back way of the ranch, and with his wife, they looked up and saw a huge red orb above their truck. And red is like the evil ones.
Okay. What different colors are there? Do you know?
That I know, there's blue for sure, red. I don't know about maybe like a light blue, whitish color, but there's
Okay.
not. I don't know of too many other colors, but what I've been told around this area is that one, and like it was.
So if you see the red,
red's not good. No,
red's bad.
and well, none of them are good.
Right.
The red's not the good one to be around, if any, and it induced like the most fear that they've ever felt in their life just by knowing that's there, and then what they felt from it.
Right.
And that same guy, he had a missing time experience up here in the mountains. He was supposed to meet his wife because they're big into hunting, and all right, well, meet me here. And he's walking, and next thing you know, he's up on the mountain, maybe like way up there. Like, luckily he knows the mountain, and he's like, yeah, okay, I know where I'm at. But he was freaking out, like, what happened? Where am I? That was crazy. Missing
Right.
time for like 2 hours.
That's scary.
And he's
Missing times.
so far up the mountain. He's like, he came to work shaking, like, wow.
Yeah,
And
that's crazy.
that same guy too in the mountains. The mountains up here got some creepy stuff, man.
Right.
He had seen these trees that were just like covered in blood and like animal parts, and he found an elk that was beyond beaten, and something, whatever it was, an elk are huge animals. Took the elk, we're talking like 800 pounds more, and beat this thing at least 10 feet high up in the tree around these trees like it was trying to just destroy this animal.
Wow.
Whatever it was.
And they just found the elk and then all the blood in the trees?
Yeah, just like something like for us, it'd be the equivalent of like a cat size, you know? Like if, let's say someone just, I can't explain it, like a towel of paint on it, and you were just whacking that thing on everything. The same equivalent, but that animal got destroyed by something swinging it into all the trees.
So something big enough that it like picked it up by a leg or the neck and was just swinging it around?
Whatever it did, yeah, just like a rag doll.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What about this?
What? Say that again.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that would be a say it again situation for sure. What about do you know or heard any rumors about anyone ever being killed on the property? Like researchers, scientists, security.
Not that I can think of, no. But I want to say that I know of it.
Okay.
If that makes any sense. Like it rings a bell, maybe, but I don't. Not for sure. Like there is portals and dimensions. Who's to say? You know.
Now that's something we had talked about before. Was there are cases where people claimed that they unknowingly walked through a portal while being on the property. Is that right?
Yep. Missing time. You just be walking. Next thing you know, it's getting dark, and then someone's supposed to meet you, and you're like, "Where the heck were you, man? Like, where were you? I was waiting for you." It just gets dark, like you're gonna faint, and next thing you know, it just starts coming back, and you walk through a portal.
Yeah, that's crazy. And apparently, there's several cases of people walking through portals. You had said too that the portals that they describe, if you saw the portal directly on, it looks like a portal. But if you were to see it from the side, it would be almost invisible.
Yep, it's all about the angle of seeing it. Yeah.
So you have to. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's just like that. It's just anywhere from like 30 feet to 50 foot, just a huge circle, and whatever's in there is in there.
Yeah, so people have also seen portals open and things jumping right out, like onto the land, right?
Yeah, that story in the book where it talks about that black creature falling out, I'm pretty sure that was a Bigfoot.
Okay. Yeah, there have been many Bigfoot sightings there. Also, what about the sightings people are claiming of seeing, like the Predator invisibility cloak?
Yeah, that too. There's been times that I asked Terry, like, you ever see that stuff? And he said he was coyote hunting one time, and he was calling them in, and nothing yet. And then next thing you know, he hears crunching snow, like off in the distance a little bit, but you can definitely tell something's walking with 2 feet, and it's crunching snow, and it has that same kind of heat signature, like almost like coming off of a hot barbecue, that convection.
Right.
And he's like, I just get the hell out of there. Like, I'm not sticking around for
that. But yeah, people said that they describe it like it looks exactly like in the Predator film, where it's hard to see if it's still, but if it moves, you can see distortions in it.
Yeah, it's like a dimensional invisible thing.
Right.
There's another story too that no one might not have heard of, but it's him and his wife were deer hunting, and she shot one, and they go over to go get it, and the tree was a pretty big tree, like maybe telephone pole size, I guess, and that tree started shaking so violently that they're like, "The heck is going on?" And she's like, "No, screw that. It's my deer. I'm getting it." So they got the deer, and he said he went over there and he saw where something had pissed on that tree that was probably like 10 to 12 feet high, where the piss was.
Wow.
And he saw a boot print that was probably like 2 feet, like an actual boot with a heel that was probably like 2 feet long.
Really?
Yeah.
So that not only is it a giant, but it's a giant that's basically wearing, human made boots.
Yeah, a huge boot. Yep.
And that could also be something that might have destroyed that elk kind of thing. But if are there any other stories you know of specifically of giants on the property?
I've never heard any. I think that's fascinating, giants. But I haven't heard
Yeah,
nothing.
I've been hearing more and more stories recently about actual giants from different sources, and not only that, the Bible predicts that in Isaiah 13 that if you look at the old ancient Septuagint Bible in ancient Greek, it literally says in Isaiah 13 that God's going to send giants to punish people for their sins, and that's never happened since that time. So it's a future fulfillment, and yet now there's all these stories about giants. There's in the military they have the story of the giant of Kandahar, which was a giant that some soldiers found in a cave, and it killed a bunch of them.
Yep.
And there's giant stories popping up all over the place, and a lot of people. I've had friends of mine that are like, John, you're full of crap with all this giant stuff. If you look at the 1800s of film fish of the U.S. history on fish footage of newspapers and stuff, there are literally thousands of cases of people accidentally discovering giants in their backyard or on a dig site or for work. There's thousands of stories of giants. The thing is, all those are covered up. All of them are sent to the Smithsonian and disappear, coincidentally enough. But all those are made to disappear. And that's not far in our recent past that you can find all that. It doesn't take much research to find all that. So and with the book of Enoch in the Bible, it talks about how fallen angels came to earth and created children that were known as the Nephilim, which were cannibalistic giants. And that the Nephilim in turn created another race called the Chimeras, which was the mixing of human and animal creatures like Bigfoot, like Dogman. And I say they come from that. Although I believe there's a weaponized program going on with our government for these creatures and other types of cryptids, including giants. It's real interesting that it's one thing to say that there's stories of a giant, but it's a whole nother thing to say there's a giant wearing a 2-foot man-made boot.
Yeah, that one. When you told me that one, I was like, "Oh, that's crazy. That's a crazy one. I haven't heard that one."
I saw a photograph. I've seen 2 photographs of military situations where you got normal soldiers and then you got a giant standing next to the troops, and they're standing right next to them, so it's not a perspective difference from the angle. They're standing right next to them, and yet they're basically twice to 3 times the size of a normal human being, and they're wearing full military gear.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that still picture from that video. What was that? A martial law thing?
Yep, that's one I'm referring to. That was from a video of a martial law thing when people were burning a town down and they sent the military out there, and you just were able to catch on a still frame from that video of this giant. Another one I'm referring to is a troop movement with soldiers and tanks, and you had a giant that was walking in the middle of them. And the man was gigantic compared to any of the tanks or anything like that, So
yeah, I was listening to a deal about Andre the Giant the other day. I was like, he was pretty big, but you think that like perspective wise that there was giants way bigger than him and how strong and what he drank and ate. That's amazing.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, Steve, we're drawing close to the end of the time of the show. Really, we're just passed over. But are there any closing thoughts you have, or are there any other stories you know of about the ranch that you haven't shared that you think would be that people would want to know?
I'm trying to think about the ranch. I mean, like I'm saying, a lot of the stories in the book that I told you guys they're actually like that stuff did happen, but as far as being 100% accurate, they're not exactly 100%.
Right.
But I want to see here offhand.
But it's one of the best things to go to get an idea.
Yeah, if you don't know anything, go check that out.
Right.
His people have heard about his wife, getting groceries, and then being back in the bag, like she never took him out, and she's losing her mind, like the heck is going on, or getting in the shower, making sure all
So-
the stuff's right there when she gets out, and it's all put back.
So that did happen.
Yeah.
Well, that's definitely some like poltergeist activity.
Yeah.
What about the people claim that they see like a apparition of a kid running through the ranch or something like that disappearing?
I've never heard that one. Let's see here. There was one that wasn't in the book that he told me there was a woman that was like beyond beautiful, walking. Just where the heck did she come from? Like, what are you
Right.
walking on the ranch for? And I want to say she just like disappeared, just walked and just disappeared.
Huh. That sounds like one of those driving stories where like you pick up the person on the side of the road and they disappear
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's actually, there's so much stuff that's like besides the ranch that's interesting out here too. Like, you got to be careful where you go out, what set of mountains out here. Or I found Bigfoot things up in these mountains myself. Just it doesn't take very much to see it. It's everywhere.
You saw them?
Not them. I've seen like structures. I've seen footprints.
Okay.
There's a ton of stuff. And what else?
What were some of the size footprints you saw?
I have a 12.5, and I'd say that one was probably like a 14.
Okay.
I'd say 15, and
Okay.
maybe like an average size boot width, maybe like a half of what I got too.
Right.
I was gonna say, Dogman. I know people like officials. I know some officials up here that have.
Oh yeah, we got to talk about that. It's a Dogman show.
Yeah, he's seen one on all fours above the junipers that grow out here, and they're the little ones, and the brush around it, and
a juniper grows to like 6 feet, right?
They get huge, and
okay.
He was saying that it was standing on all fours above the brush, which means his back had to have been like 5 feet off the ground at least.
Wow.
And I sent you the picture. I did, and he went back the next day, and he's like, "Wow, that's a big dog," He said he saw it. He said he drew his gun on it,
right.
And the thing took off right when he drew his gun.
So recognized what the gun was.
Yes, and I saw the picture, and I was like, "You sure it's not a dog man?" He's like, "Oh, it's not a dog man." I'm like, "Do you even know what a dog man is?" "Yeah, it's not a dog man." I'm like, "It's a pretty big animal, and what you just described is not." "Oh, that's a wolf from Idaho. They get that big." I'm like, "Dude, that's not what you're saying it is, and I know you know that."
Huh. Any other stories of dogmen out there? And have you seen tracks?
I'm always looking. I've never seen any.
Okay. But you have seen the Bigfoot tracks. How many Bigfoot tracks have you seen? Like a lot, or just once or twice kind of thing?
I mean, full-time job and family and kids, and like
right.
When I can get a chance to go up there, I always seem to find something.
That's just an excuse. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. And, I do get that uneasy feeling that people talk about. Like you get that, your neck hairs stand up and you like get the chills in a way. Like, I don't know. I don't feel safe. And I always go by myself because no one wants to go with me. I'm like, fine, I'll do it myself. And when you go, you're like, I don't know if I want to walk any further than that line right there. I'm not going. I'll go to another spot. Driving my Jeep.
And what about your family, like your brother and all? What if he's seen them too, huh? The Bigfoots?
He hasn't seen them. He knows for sure that there are some out here. He has an acquaintance that knows exactly where they are, I guess.
Okay.
I've seen them. He said they're like a beautiful blondish kind of color.
Oh, like a pod of them? Like a family
unit? Yeah. And that's when you think about it, like James Cameron, or was it James Cameron? Or George Lucas, the dude from Star Wars. He based Chewbacca off of Bigfoot and an encounter he had, and he's kind of like a dirty blonde,
Oh, did he have an encounter?
Yeah, that's where Chewbacca was based off of.
Dude, I'm a Star Wars nerd freak fanatic, and I've never heard that.
Yeah.
That's wild. I'm going to have to look that up. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I had a friend actually. We were hunting this last season. I was like, "You ever seen any weird stuff, man?" He's like, Man, there was one time in high school, he was out on there's a hill mountain up there, and I don't know where this beam of light shoots down, just like a classic UFO. He's like, "I don't know what that was, but it happened." Like, if he had missing time or missing something, I don't think he'd know, because how are you gonna know?
Right, that's scary.
I had another friend. he was doing Boy Scout stuff because that stuff's pretty prevalent here because where we live,
Sure.
mountains and country. And he said this is in junior high. He said he went up there and they saw a blue orb. Like I think there was 2 or 3 of them floating around the trees. And he remembers going to bed, waking up, and I don't know when he realized he had it, but he said he has these 3 dots on his back. He can't account for where the heck they came from.
Oh no.
Yep.
I've seen video footage of that before. The exact same thing, like 3 dots.
Yeah, he's like, I didn't have those before.
That's crazy. That's super scary. And yeah, you've heard all the research that I forget the name of the guy before that used to actually do the surgeries and pull those out of people, like when they found like implants and stuff. And they would literally do surgery. And they said that when they would do the surgery to remove the implant, that it would actually, the implant would run away from them under the skin in the body. And they have to like chase after it to get a hold of it and pull it out, you know?
It's almost like trying to get an eggshell with your finger, you know, like you can't get it.
Yeah, they've gotten some of these implants and tested them in labs, and they said there's not metal in this. They know it's metal, but like it's not from Earth, you know?
Yep. There's another thing is they have found that unobtainium that you hear about, like X-Men. That for sure has been found at the ranch.
Unobtainium?
Yep.
The first I heard to talk about that was what's his name? Bob Lazar.
Yeah, or element 115, I think is what they call it.
Yeah, Bob Lazar was the first to go public when he claimed to work for Area 51, and the government tried to discredit him and removed all his records from his life, even his college degrees and stuff. And he said that they had they invented element 115 known as unobtainium. And everyone was like, you're full of crap, you're full of crap. Then years later, scientists actually came out and said, no, we now have discovered an element 115 that we're calling unobtainium. So that completely, as far as I'm concerned, that completely gives total credibility to Bob Lazar.
Yeah.
Who came out with that years, I mean, like almost 20 years before it was publicly recognized.
Yeah.
And said that was a part of the work he did. He said that they powered their vehicles at the time through the unobtainium and through another element called helium-3, which was a material that's found on the surface of the moon.
Wow.
They said that if you took a space shuttle, and a normal space shuttle, and you go to the moon, and you filled up the cargo area with helium-3, and you brought that back down to the Earth, that would be enough fuel to power the entire Earth for 1 year. Every single person's home, every person in the world, their house, their work, their business, to fuel the entire Earth for 1 year from the helium-3.
There was another deal that there was, I forgot how he described it to me, but there was these pieces of metal that they tried to destroy that they found, and it's indestructible. And it had so much power, though, like that I think GM got wind of that they had it, and they wanted to buy it. Like, you name the price, we want that. And he said, nope.
Really?
Ain't gonna happen.
I know a story that I heard on Coast to Coast AM when I was in college. And it was about, right now we use nuclear reactors, right, which are very dangerous. Look at Chernobyl. Look at Fukushima, Japan. They're very unstable. They're very dangerous. They're very volatile. The next step in evolution is going to be fusion reaction, right, which is what the sun is. The sun creates a fusion reaction. So the scientist completes 4 working models of a fusion reaction, and he tries to sell it to our government, and our government said they're not interested. The only reason on Earth they would say that they're not interested is because they already have all the technology. And then they seized all of he had 4 working models to prove that it could work. And the government came in and seized those under national security and said he couldn't work on that stuff anymore.
Yeah, and he actually told me a couple stories of people that he knows that are geniuses, and they got these ideas that are going to rewrite how things are done. People come in with suits, and it's not necessarily they take it, they'll just show up and start harassing them and say, that doesn't work. You can't do what you say you do. And one of them, and I'll freaking show you, you know, while they're picking a fight with them more or less, but he's like, I'll show you. Right. And like, they end up either breaking their machine, trying to demo, like, I'll freaking show you, man. The machine breaks, or if it is so good, they do confiscate it for real, though. And there's all kinds of technology that people make that people shut them down.
That's the thing. People don't understand. I mean, there's no reason on Earth that we shouldn't be in flying cars right now. You know what I'm saying? Like the Jetsons. That should be our reality. We should have flying cars. In fact, who was it? Nikola Tesla had a protege. I want to say Carr. Was his name? Karr. And Tesla had a protege whose protege was Carr. And he said that working for him, the protege of Tesla built a working model of a UFO, and demonstrated it. But the government came in and shut the whole thing down, took all the technology, said he couldn't work on it. Then Carr invented a new power source, and they came in and shut that down. Now, I had a hard time believing that story back when I was more naive, when I was younger. But I found out that my uncle does defense contracting, and has made a lot of money and been very successful in doing that. And he's made a lot of inventions. He, back in the day, created a power cell for running vehicles, cars, off of like nitrogen or something like that, and as an alternative power source. And he created a working model to prove that it could be done. Government came in, told him that under reasons of national security, he's not allowed to work on that anymore, and shut him down. My own uncle. So wow. Yeah, there's a lot of advanced technology that people come out with. There's another story where a man was able to make a machine that you could make a car that ran on water. Okay, because water is H2O, which is hydrogen and oxygen. Well, liquid hydrogen and oxygen is literally what we put the space shuttle to the moon with right now. You see what I'm saying? That's how much power is basically in water, which is H2O. This man found a way to create a reaction with water where he could run a car. This guy said when I saw an interview with this guy, I said, oh man, the government's going to kill this guy. Sure enough, later he was at a Cracker Barrel restaurant and started choking on his food and wrote on a napkin, "They've killed me." And basically it was like a type of poison or something in the food. And he's dead.
Wow.
You know?
No, but actually I know a guy, he personally seen the invention this guy made. He made it to where he did some stuff where he routed things on his engine, and he got like 100 something miles to the gallon. And but yeah, that's one of them. He did that and they confiscated his truck. And
that's it.
There's another one where this guy bought this used government vehicle, and I guess that was one of those crazy experimental cars that wasn't supposed to be auctioned. No one checked, or whoopsie. And that dude bought it, and he never had to buy gas ever again. I guess he just drove that thing till they took it. Yep.
Well, that's the thing. The smartest and brightest among us are kept from advancing our technology beyond where we are. And that's something people don't understand. In the military industrial complex, there are thousands of years advanced than the common knowledge of the public is of what we have now as far as technology. So the problem is when people are like, that doesn't exist, this doesn't exist, that can't happen. People have no idea what already exists that they can do, because it's not in common knowledge given to the public. So like portals, we absolutely have the technology right now to open up portals. You can open up a portal in somebody's bedroom and take them. You can open up it's called a localized wormhole. And they can open up a localized wormhole, and it acts just as the transporter did in Star Trek. Which our government tried to invent the transporter from Star Trek. But the problem with it was that in order for it to break you down on one side and rebuild you on the other, it's killing you in the process. So that didn't work. We have transporter technology, and they can use it on unanimate objects. But if you were to put a live subject in there, it kills it before it tries to reassemble it.
Someone was telling me that the Star Trek was based off of like a futuristic Air Force.
Yep. Yeah, that's correct. That's completely right. By Gene Roddenberry, who was a former police officer, by the way. But if you listen to Ben Rich, and I talk about this a lot, it's one of my favorite things to talk about. If you listen to Ben Rich, who was a former head of Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works division, which people said if there's anyone that would be in the know of US UFOs, it would be that man. He came out and said that we have the technology now to travel to other galaxies and back. We have and not take a lifetime to do so. We have the technology to bring ET back home. We have the technology to fly beyond the speed of light. He says we found mistakes in Einstein's equations, and we now have the ability to travel beyond light speed. And he says that anything you've ever seen in any science fiction movie, and he specifically stated Star Trek and Star Wars, he said we are 50 years beyond that in technology right now. He says, but these things are locked in black budget programs that are secret, and it would take an act of God to ever reveal them to the public.
Yeah.
And you got to understand, think of it this way. You've always heard the adage that knowledge is power, right? Okay, so if knowledge is power, what do you have to control in order to control power?
Money.
No. Think about it. If knowledge is power, all right? Knowledge is power, right? Then what do you have to control power? Nothing. Knowledge. Yeah. If knowledge is power, then you have to control knowledge in order to control power. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, that's what it all comes down to. It's all about control. And think about this. If you're a billionaire elite and you got more money than you could ever spend in 50 lifetimes, do you think money in the acquisition of wealth is no longer important to you? But what is? Power.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're going on way on too long, but it's been interesting talking to you and hearing more about the ranch, and I can go off on conspiracy theories or, the truth that's wrapped up in a bundle hole called a conspiracy theory. But anyway, we need to draw it into the show. So you have any last minute thing you want to say before I hang up with the audience?
No, I wish I could tell you more. I could probably, if I write it down, I know a lot more I haven't told you guys, but it's everywhere out. Yeah. It's everywhere out here. You don't have to really look for it. If it's meant to be your time to see it, you're going to see it.
And that's the thing. And you don't know when it's going to happen or how you're going to stumble upon it. Right.
Nope.
Right. So, well, you can always come back on the show, Steve. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and I'm sure the fans would like to hear you come back sometime. And if you come up with a list of more stories, I'd love to have you back on. So
yeah, no problem.
But for now, everybody, this has been DogmanCams.com. I'm your host, John Bell, and we're going to see you until next time. If you have any stories that you would like to share, and please do, then especially if they're cryptid related, I try to focus on, send them to support@DogmanCams.com. Until we see you guys next time, take care and be safe.